And we are live. Hello, Miss Lana. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Well, I'm going to tell you how I'm doing
Okay, good.
um, because we like to be honest on the show, right? The name of the show is Black and White with
Uh-huh.
Brian Rundle and Lana Quest, which basically means everything that we say and do is in black and white. There's no, you know, there's no two ways about it. Everything is straight down the line.
Right. No gray areas.
No gray areas. So, of course, this is not my main job and it's not Lana's main
Nope.
job. And I had a little event tonight that beautiful event, free food, and they gave some free drinks. So I took advantage of the free drinks. So I might be a
Yeah,
little
you
bit more
did.
on fire tonight than I normally am. Um, but that being said, I'm gonna. So here's the thing. I'm gonna let Lana be the judge because Lana's
Okay.
always the person who I think is probably smarter than any of us. So
I'm sure.
Lana, it is true. Lana, what I need you to do is I need you to monitor me. And if
Okay.
I start getting out of control, you just go,
Yeah,
all right, that might be enough. Or
I
just
won't.
let's roll. You made yourself a drink too, didn't you?
I did, and it's in a cup.
Yeah.
It's not even mine. It's one of my kids. That's how you know you're getting older when your kids bring alcohol in. And it's like the already made margarita.
No question.
I know we have to start, but can I make a complaint?
First
So
of all, yeah, absolutely.
it's not even political. It's just like a rant.
Hmm.
I get in my car last week Wednesday. Every light is flashing. ABS system malfunction. Lane whatever just all of it was saying it was malfunction. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's the
So
damn
now
Russians.
it's true. Wait. Okay, wait. So now we're gonna go. Wait, like let me segue somewhere, and then I'll segue back real
Okay.
quick. I swear,
No,
5
no,
minutes.
no. I love
So
the story.
it's the damn Russians. So I work for a law firm. The firm as a whole is pretty progressive as a whole.
Mhm.
Interesting enough, the Boston office, not so much, which is interesting. So there's an attorney there. And back when Trump was running against Hillary, but he thinks he ran against Obama, but that's neither here nor there.
We're getting into that. So
He would every time. So I would be at the copier, like, what time? It's a jam, right? And he'd walk by and he'd go, Putin did it. Like with everything, he would just say, but he thought it was the funniest thing. And I'm like, what is the joke here? Like, I guess he was trying to make fun of like liberals saying that Putin was doing things. So every time he walked by someone in the office, he would be like, Putin did it. I'm like, ugh.
well,
Anyway,
I can assure you there's absolutely nothing funny about that. And I'm not talking about from an offensive point. I'm just talking about from a comedic point. There's absolutely nothing
well,
funny about
if
it.
you saw him, he looks like Mr. Burns from like The
The Simpsons.
Simpsons.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah. That's
what?
how I picture all these people for the most
Yeah.
part. Well,
No.
all the top people, that's how I picture. And
Yeah.
all the bottom people we'll get into in a little bit. But
Yeah.
um, before we do start, since you had your story, I've got a
I
quick.
don't even finish my car story, but who cares? It's fixed.
You feel you could drive now?
No, well, my point was, remember the day that you can take your car to just like, an old cat you run in some garage somewhere, like you could just take it to like a mom and pop garage.
Yeah.
Now they see stuff like that coming. They're like, oh, that could be like the whole motherboard, and you need software and all this other stuff. So they can't readily fix that stuff. And it's crazy because in Massachusetts, we actually passed whatever the law was on the ballot that, you know, car dealerships don't have the gamut on the cars. Like you
Yep.
have to have them so other garages can fix the cars,
Yep.
but they still cannot because the new equipment that they're putting in these cars, they don't know how to do it. So if you're working for Honda, Nissan, Toyota, any of these places, get all the information you can, open up your own business because there's a need.
Well, I do have an explanation as to why you may be having issues.
Okay.
Putin did it. See, now that's funny. When I say it, it's funny. When that guy that you work with
good one.
Not funny. Um,
That's a good one. Putin.
by the way, another thing I need you to do for me. Here's my problem. Especially maybe tonight. So we had some comments
Send
last
this
week.
link out so I can get everyone to watch you drunk.
Yeah. Oh my God. And it was these were not a couple beers. These were a couple Long Island iced teas. Which again, I'm not a heavy drinker. Like I'll have some wine for dinner every, but I'm not like a heavy drink. I don't get blasted drunk. But it was a nice event. And when you got the cute bartender behind the bar and she keeps saying, "Do you want another one?" And I'm like, okay, let's do one more. But I was going to say, if you see comments tonight and I read them out loud and I'm not comprehending what they're saying.
Oh, like last week?
Yeah, please stop me and let me know, because I would have jumped on those comments a little bit more than what
I was like, why is he being nice to this person, Lefty Lucy or whoever that was?
I'll tell you why, because I'm not as used to doing the live show and doing it. So I'm just reading it. And my thought process is I just need to get the comments out of the way so I can move to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I'm reading them without comprehending them, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't. But that's what I did. So keep an eye on me, Lana. I need your help. Please.
Okay.
Did you watch the Dolphins-Patriots game?
No.
Yeah.
What time is it? I don't know. I have to get better. I swear. We did get the new Mortal Kombat game.
I don't know what that means.
See? PlayStation.
Yes, no, I do know what Mortal Kombat is.
They have a new one.
But we talked about it last week. I'm a Dolphins fan, and then you said they played, and you're like, I'm going to watch it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Right.
Sorry.
Well,
who's the drunk one now?
I was going to say, I was going to brag a little bit that my Dolphins won, but the fact that you don't give a shit about it means nothing now.
I do care. I watched the Patriots like at the end, but maybe I'll start.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take that. But
I watch basketball. Come back.
Me too. I can't wait for basketball. That's where you and I are going to have a good time during basketball season. So, and I'll tell you what, you tuning in for politics, you're still going to get it, and current events and everything.
Yeah.
You might get some Boston Celtics talk.
Yeah.
That's what Lana and I are going to wrap on. But anyway, let's get to the news.
Yes.
As you alluded to earlier, Donald Trump recently had an interview with Kristen Welker on she's the new host of Meet the Press. And we were talking about the old host of Meet the Press, and I couldn't remember his name. Tim Russert was the guy we were talking about, who was phenomenal. He was a great host of Meet the Press. He was one of the guys down the middle, no bullshit, it was just, but nowadays with somebody like Donald Trump, there's only a certain few people in my estimation or my view that can interview him, because for the most part, he's just going to run over you. He's going to say his bullshit, and it's very difficult to fact check him in real time. It's very difficult to, even if you did, to get a legitimate answer out of him. But the one time Kristen Welker did get an answer out of him seemed to me like a lot of people, experts, legal experts, and maybe his own attorneys were like, oh, God damn it, this is why we don't let him do this. You'll notice Donald Trump will never do a live interview. And this is, again, I agree with the fact in a sense that why would you go to these debates when you're so far ahead? And do anything to trip you up. But there's also a part of me that also thinks that the attorneys are saying, you let Donald Trump loose in these things, and he's going to say something incredibly crazy. And that's why, he claims that he would get on the stand and he would testify on his own behalf under the 4 different cases. But it is my view that in all 4 cases, if he took the stand, he would basically be Colonel Jessup in A Few Good Men, that you can't handle the truth guy who just will tell the truth on the stand because he can't handle that anybody is questioning him.
Right.
So I'm going to play a clip, and what are your thoughts, by the way, on? And I sent you an article earlier, and I don't want to read the whole article, even though the whole article is really good, but I'm going to read a good portion of it. It's difficult to figure out what we should be doing about interviewing people like Donald
Right.
Trump and giving him credibility
Right.
when he really deserves no credibility. I don't
Right.
care the fact that he's so far ahead in the Republican primary. He has 91 felony counts against him. He was found guilty of sexually assaulting somebody. And we're still treating this guy like he's an equal to Joe Biden.
Right.
Do you feel weird about that? Do you feel any different? Do you feel like, okay, maybe he's still the Republican nominee, he should get a fair
I mean,
amount of coverage?
right. I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
I was going to ask you because the minute like people heard on social media that Walker was going to do this interview, it was all of a sudden she was the worst person on the planet. She's a bad journalist. Why would MSNBC do like it was just all of that. And I'm just like, but she's a journalist.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? She has to do, how can you be a journalist and say, I am not going to interview Donald Trump?
I agree with you, but my question is, so this is the first time that she is the host on Meet
Right.
the
Meet the
Press,
Press,
which has
right.
been a kind of a
Right.
stalwart of
Yeah.
political news every Sunday. It's the
Right.
show to
Right.
be on every Sunday.
Right.
And the first show is going to be, let's interview Donald Trump. First of all, why was it not Joe Biden, the
They
president of
they
the
did
United
ask
States?
Joe Biden. They've
Say
been
again?
saying that. They did ask Joe Biden. They've
And
sent out
did he
I don't
refuse?
no, I don't know if they've gotten anything back, but they did say, like, when they talked about this interview, they did say, and I think she may have said it herself, that they have put out an invitation to Joe Biden to come on the show. They
Okay.
did do
Well,
it. Like several times they've said it. Yeah.
then that part I miss, but the fact is that I wonder why it wouldn't be Joe Biden first, unless for some reason Joe Biden didn't
Right.
get back to them on time,
Right.
and so they gave it to Donald Trump. But I still feel a little weird, and I guess I do understand he's the leading candidate for the Republican Party, but the fact that we're giving this guy a platform to lie. This is not like George Bush. It's not even like Ronald Reagan, who I thought was one of the most overrated presidents in the history of this country. It's not like any of the other
But they
Republican,
all lie. But they all lie. Like, so
but
if
they
we
all don't have 91 counts of felony counts against them. And again, I might be wrong, and it's just my opinion. And I guess that the fact that at the end of the day, if you are the leading candidate,
I mean, it's to me, it's monumental, right? Like, we can't ignore that fact. It's monumental.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people on death row that get interviewed by journalists
Yeah.
because you just want to know what's in their heads. So I don't know why, just from a journalism standpoint, not from our personal, this guy is the rise of democracy, just from journalistically, this is what this is news. Trump is news, whether we like it or not. I'm not saying he's good news,
Yeah.
but he is news, whether we like it or not. And I don't think it is a bad thing for us to be reminded about how fucking bad this guy is. And he shows us every time we see him, we're like, what the fuck? Like, it's just, and Jack Smith and everyone is happy to see this man on TV.
Well, you may be right about that, and I will say that there are a lot of times in my head that I feel like I'm an intelligent guy, and a lot of my thoughts are validated, but all of my thoughts sometimes have questions, and that's why I ask these questions, and I'm interested to see what other opinions are about this.
I'm a minority. I'm a
Yeah.
minority of everyone. No one thinks he should be interviewed. I don't care.
Yeah, and again, it's we're swimming in waters that we've never swam in
Right.
before,
Right.
and it's a very confusing time. But I still feel like the fact that we are both sidesing this thing
Right.
with somebody as dangerous as Donald
Right.
Trump
Right.
is painful for me to take in. But
Right.
anyway, I mean, we could talk about that all day, but I want to play the clip of Donald
Mhm.
Trump first with Kristen Welker. And then what I want to do is, Lana, between you and I and anybody else that's watching, what would you say would be the number one concern about Joe Biden?
Oh, for other people, of course, his age.
His age. And maybe that he might have some cognitive
Exactly.
issues or stuff like that.
Yeah.
After this clip, I
Mm.
want to play the same cognitive issues
Yes. Let's do
that
it.
Donald Trump has.
Yep.
And I want to get your opinion on that. And I have a theory as to why maybe people look at Joe Biden differently when it comes to those issues and Donald Trump. But let's get to this clip first. This is Donald Trump with Kristen Welker with her debut on Meet the Press.
Administration and on your campaign told you that after you'd lost more than 60 legal challenges that it was over. Why did you ignore them and decide to listen to a new outside group?
Because I didn't respect them.
You'd hired
as lawyers,
them.
Sure, but that doesn't mean, you hire them. You never met these people. You get a recommendation. They turn out to be rhinos or they turn out to be not so good.
I want to talk about this rhinos thing that they keep doing. So anybody that has any disagreement from the right are now labeled as rhinos, which means Republicans in name only is what that is. And that is just another word salad that they put together. So anybody that's watching this that is on Donald Trump's sides go, oh, that's why these attorneys are crazy, because they really are Republicans in name only.
Right.
Even though in reality, if you're a professional attorney, I'm guessing that you're not going to take on Donald Trump as a client and then go against whatever it is he has to say. What again, this is the kind of shit that people need to point out when he says dumb shit like this.
Right.
Fuck. All right, here's more.
In many cases, I didn't respect them, but I did respect others. I respected many others that said the election was rigged.
You called some of your outside lawyers. You said they had crazy theories. Why were you listening to them? Were you listening to them because they were telling you what you wanted to hear?
You know who I listened to myself? I saw what happened. I watched that election, and I thought the election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening.
You were listening to your instincts.
My instincts are a big part of it. That's been the thing that's gotten me to where I am, my instincts. But I also listen to people. There are many lawyers. I could give you many books. There are books that are written on how the election was rigged. There are numerous books that were written on how the election was rigged.
Just to be clear, were you listening to your lawyer's advice or were you listening to your own instincts?
I was listening to different people, and when I added it all up, the election was rigged. There are books
Were you
that
calling
are
the
written.
shots, though?
In fact, Molly Hemingway wrote a great book.
But were you calling?
This Molly Hemingway that he brings up, by the way, she writes for the Federalist, which is a far right wing. Okay. So this is the credibility that he gives towards somebody writing a great book about how the election was stolen. He also had mentioned at some point that in his trial that he's going to cite the movie 2000 Mules. Do you know what 2000 Mules is?
What's his face?
Dinesh D'Souza, who is a far right. I mean, he makes Michael Moore's a left-wing guy, but he makes Michael Moore look like a centrist. So, so 2000 Mules is something that he cited. By the way, if anybody doesn't know 2000 Mules, it's a movie about how the election was stolen. It has been debunked by tens.
Is it even a movie or is it like some documentary?
It's a documentary movie. Yeah, kind of like when Michael Moore comes out with Fahrenheit 9/11 or Bowling for Columbine. But it's one of these documentaries that's been debunked by many people, and proven the falsities that have been said in this movie over and over and over again. But let's get back to what Donald Trump has to say to Kristen Welker, and we'll get back.
Calling the shots ultimately.
Excuse me, Molly Hemingway, who's highly respected and great. She wrote a book, a best-selling book called Rigged.
Were you calling the shots, though, Mr. President? Ultimately,
That wasn't bad.
As to whether or not I believed it was rigged, oh, sure, it was my decision. But I listened to some people. Some people said that. Like guys like Bill Barr, he was a stiff, but he wasn't there at the time. But he didn't do his job because he was afraid. You know what he was afraid of? He was afraid of being impeached. He was petrified to be impeached. And how do you not get impeached? Don't do anything.
What do you think?
I mean, I don't know what to say, but I felt like Kristen was trying to make him say that it was he and he alone that was calling the shots. Like she's stuck on that, and I swear that that's why a lot of these journalists do this, just to lead him into saying something, one, that could get, go viral, two, that can be used in a court of law, because he's stupid and he will say something, and she's stuck with that. She went right back to that 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Were you calling the shot? Were you calling the shots?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
And that's maybe going back to what you said, because again, I still have an issue. And you're right. I have to maybe settle my mind over this, but I almost don't. Hearing Donald Trump being interviewed to me anymore. How many more times do we have to hear what this fucking idiot has to say?
I know.
How many more times do we have to hear him lying over and over and over again,
right,
about different issues? But at the same time, like you said, these journalists kind of lead him maybe into a path where it's like, gosh, Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis and all these guys are like, please, just, maybe Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis are calling these journalists and going, hey, you might ask him these questions.
No, for real, they're watching, right?
Yeah.
Because they know he may say something. It when it's there, it's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think that it's necessarily a disservice, because, in her mind and other journalists that we know Kristen Welker is not putting, she wants salaciousness over, like that has never been her. If you followed her career path, it's just not who she is. Maybe in her head, she thought like, I can be the one that can break a story. I'm going to just, I'm going to go in, I'll call him fucking Mr. President like his people want me to do, and make him feel comfortable so that he talks and runs diarrhea of the mouth. And he did.
Yeah. And maybe that enlightens me a little bit, because I had the complete opposite opinion of it. I thought it was maybe a ratings grab, which I still think it is. I mean, it's a ratings grab.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I there's only a couple of people at this point anymore that I want to hear Donald Trump interviewed by. Maybe a Mehdi Hassan or maybe a Jon Stewart.
Right.
Outside of that, I mean, it's the same interview over and over and over again.
Right.
It's excuse me. And, like Mehdi Hassan did to Vivek Ramaswamy.
Right.
Oh boy, by the way, I said I don't want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy anymore, but I almost do, because Lana, you've got to say, we get so many views on any time we talk about this cat, and the comments we get, whew, people don't like us.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Love the haters.
Me too. But I'm glad you said that. But let's get back to what we were talking about earlier about the difference between how they treat Joe Biden with maybe stumbling over a word or two, and Donald Trump. I have 3 different clips I want to play of Donald Trump that just happened in the recent past here. This first one, I think this is the first one. Let me see. think this is where he gets very confused
Yay.
about who he ran against. It might not be, it might be the other one, but we'll get to that one if it's not.
Okay.
Who is totally corrupt and the worst president in
Different
the
one.
history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia
Listen to the
and
music.
possible
And I need the
nuclear war.
podium
Just
to
think
hold
of
me
it.
up.
We would be in World War II
Mm.
very quickly if we're going to be relying on this.
The guy who is talking about somebody's mental acuity just said that we might be on the brink. Now, again,
Was that his music? Was that at the
that was 100% at the event, because I'm going to play another clip and the same
What
music is playing.
the hell?
It's almost like a
Oh, stop playing with me right now. He looked like he was about to pass out too.
yeah, they're doing this thing now where it's as if you're watching a movie and the poignant scene is coming up and he's giving the speech of the poignant scene. It's so pathetic and so sad. But the guy who's talking about somebody's mental acuity in the same sentence said, we are on the brink. Now, I asked you this before, and I might be wrong because the education system in Florida might be different from where you are at. But we had a World War II already, correct?
I think so.
Okay.
Sorry,
You and I agree on that?
Yeah.
Do you think that there would be anybody that would disagree that we've already had a World War II?
No, I think so because I think Vietnam came after that, right? So
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't really a war, but
It was,
I mean-
yeah. So World War II has already happened. So he's talking about somebody else's.
well, I mean, didn't he say that there was a plane during like the
Yeah.
Civil War or something?
He was talking about the airports.
Oh, right, the airports.
Yep. So this is clip number 2. This is the first one I was talking about. This is where Donald Trump gets very confused about who he beat and who he's running against.
Let's go.
Somebody's on his mind big time.
Look at Joe Biden and the radical left thugs who have weaponized law enforcement to
He got Biden right the first time. Okay.
arrest their leading political opponent, and leading by a lot, including Obama. I'll tell you what, you take a look at Obama and take a look at some of the things that he's done. This is the same thing. The country was very divided. And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. We beat Hillary Clinton. Now, you know, I used to call her.
They're like,
Clinton
yeah, you
Hillary.
got it right. What the fuck?
So you screw up once and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Because you've heard Joe Biden do that. Joe Biden every once in a while will say different country or something like that.
Right.
But he said Obama's name 3 fucking times.
Yeah, he did.
3 times he said Obama's name that he beat.
Obama. Beat Obama. Like, what?
That is a mental issue.
Yeah.
And the fact that we compare Biden's mental issue and Trump's mental issues is 2 different things. Actually, we look at Biden's mental issue, but we do not look as much at Trump's mental issue.
Right.
Really pisses me off. And I have a theory behind that, but I want to play one more clip
Mhm.
where it appears as if he's in the middle of one of his speeches with the music in the background. You're going to hear the music again. And it appears to me as if he completely forgets what he was talking about. Some people said that he started to tear up. I promise you, Donald Trump is not a guy that starts getting choked up during
No.
a speech.
No way.
So take a look at this.
Build America into the greatest nation
Here comes the
in the
music.
history of the world.
Cue the music. Oh, look at those poor suckers in the corner.
What?
Did he choke up or did he forget what he was going to say?
I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at. I'm just so good. I'm like, how many? What?
Okay, let's go the opposite way. If that was the same exact clip with Joe Biden, what would everybody be saying?
Did he forget where he was?
100%.
Oh, I'm just like, he's just like, hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Completely
Like
forgot
a
what he was
Mitch
going to say.
McConnell moment.
So, right, that's exactly right. And my theory is this. My theory is that when it happens to Joe Biden, you take it more seriously. When it happens to Donald Trump, they still look at him as a clown. So
Right.
when it happens to him, it's a joke, it's funny, or you don't even really pay attention to
Right.
it. It's like, you remember when Tom Cruise lost his fucking mind and he started jumping on Oprah's couch and people were like, what the fuck is wrong with him? And they took it seriously because it was Tom Cruise.
Right.
If Pauly Shore did the same thing, people
Right.
wouldn't pay attention to it.
Right.
Donald Trump is Pauly Shore
Right.
and I actually like Pauly Shore. I like some of his movies, but he's a big goofball.
Yeah, I love
And the fact that we don't take Donald Trump's mental acuity as seriously as Joe Biden's, to me, not only is just mind-blowing, it's incredibly concerning, and it's very disappointing for me to hear anybody that will sit there and compare the two as if we are on the same page and we're like, which one should I vote for? This guy, that guy? Does
that
he have a
started
point?
years
Does he not have a
ago.
point?
And it started years ago with Trump. We just
Yeah.
laughed everything off. Like he was just a clown. Like
Yeah.
he was just he would say things that we would just kind of ignore and just like,
Yeah.
the coffee thing. What did he call it? Kafa or whatever.
Kerfuffle?
Yeah.
The Kofefe thing?
Yeah.
And then he pretended like he was kidding when he got called out on it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
all of those things is just, it's not new for him.
No.
He had the doctor that was supposed to be his doctor that was a thyroid doctor, and he wrote out, I had his people write out that all of his labs came back positive.
So Ronnie Jackson, I think. Dr. Ronnie Jackson.
Yeah, like right. But that other doctor, no, remember the doctor that
the guy who had the crazy beat, who looked like something
Yeah.
from a 50s Doctor Who movie.
He's like, I'm
Yeah.
a thyroid doctor. I don't know. They just came in and told me to write this stuff. And
Yeah.
the stuff was dumb because
Yeah.
you knew that Trump wrote it. It's like labs are very, 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 very positive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's getting really beyond crazy.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's I sent you the article earlier, and I want to go over some of that article. It's a long article, and I didn't want to read the whole thing, but I did highlight a lot of it because I think it's important, the coverage of the two different kinds of medias that we're seeing nowadays, and where they are totally just, it's not the same, but we are treating it like it's the same. And this is kind of like what I was telling you so many times, is that that's why I don't like the American media now. Right. Yes, the Kristen Welker, she's a journalist and she's trying her best. But I also heard her talking a little bit before that interview aired. She was just like, oh, he was talking about his policies. And so I was like, You're normalizing Donald Trump, and normalizing Donald Trump is going to fuck this country up.
How would you do that as a journalist that's supposed to be non-biased? How would you do that?
Well, you know what? I'm going to read you part of this article, and then we'll discuss it when it comes time, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But I also want to go to, there's somebody that I'm really, really starting to dig as a sort of presidential hopeful. I also want to get into a little bit, by the way, first of all, and I didn't bring this up to you earlier, but there's a lot of articles out of nowhere all of a sudden about Biden's age and Kamala Harris. And I am really sick and tired of hearing about the negative news about not just Joe Biden, but Kamala Harris as well.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen her doing this college tour. Everywhere she goes, she's like a rock star.
Yeah.
And I will say, before she was nominated as the vice president, when she was in the Senate and she would question people in the Senate, it was bad ass.
Yeah.
Badassery is
Yeah.
what we call it. She was phenomenal.
Mhm.
And for anybody to act like she is not qualified
Right.
to be vice president of this country is out of their fucking mind. And I will say I'm a little disappointed in the reaction that Nancy Pelosi, who I think is the greatest speaker probably in the history of this country,
Mhm.
when they asked her on, I think it was MSNBC or it was one of those channels, and they were asking her about Kamala Harris, she wouldn't really commit to her being, the best choice. And that was very disappointing
But
because,
what, the presidency next, or is that what she's saying?
well, they were asking her if they thought that she was the best running mate for Joe Biden in
Oh, best.
2024.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't really commit to it. And that was really disappointing for me to hear, because the one thing that sometimes I'll give the Republicans, they're in
Right.
lockstep, period, with everything.
Yep.
They don't give a
Doesn't
fuck.
matter. Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter who wins
Right.
that nomination.
Yep.
They are going to be 100% in
Yep.
on whoever wins that
It could
nomination.
be Herschel Walker
It
coming
could
back.
be Herschel. They were
Hey.
behind
Yes.
fucking Herschel
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
So, so that's it. They don't miss a step when it comes to
No.
that. And that's where the mainstream liberal media and even the liberals and the Democrats, and I will, like AOC, when they asked her, at least she was like, yes, out of the people running, Joe Biden is definitely the guy. She didn't mince
Right.
words. She didn't.
Right.
But anyway, Gavin Newsom is the guy I'm talking about, who I
I
think
think, yeah.
has a great shot
Yeah.
in 2028.
Yes.
In fact, there are people sort of pushing for him in
Can you
2024, which
imagine him
again, I think
running?
is offensive. What were you saying?
Imagine him running against Ron DeSantis.
The debate would be awesome.
He would kill Ron DeSantis. Oh my goodness.
Actually, and this is something maybe for another time, but maybe Ron DeSantis has ruined his chance, not just for 2024, but possibly 2028. But you never know. I mean, there's just so much time that goes by and you never know.
Yeah.
But Gavin Newsom was on with Dana Bash of CNN. And again, Dana Bash irritated me a little bit in this interview, but the reason why I wasn't irritated throughout the interview is because this motherfucker knows how to answer the fucking questions. And
Yeah.
I fucking love it. So Lana, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm going to play it with your
Let's go.
permission.
Let's go.
His poll shows only 1/3 of American voters think that Joe Biden will stay in office through a second term. I know you are downplaying concerns about his age, but
Shrug.
do you believe that voters don't have any reason to be concerned that he would be 86 years old by the end of his second term?
Voters have every right to be concerned, but I remember Bobby Kennedy said it best, that what the world needs are the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a quality of imagination. I mean this, I couldn't imagine 3 years ago that this president could accomplish so much in such a short period of time. I mean that. If this political season is all about a celebrity, with all due respect, we had a celebrity for 4 years. It didn't go well. And so I want a seasoned pro that knows how to get things done. I'm a little old-fashioned. I want a guy who produces results. And the results are in. It's been a masterclass. There's simply no administration in my lifetime that's been more effective producing more substantive results.
You and
Lana, why is this so hard to say for and
But
by the way,
everyone.
and I will also tell you too, and I'm going to let you get back to your thought there, but this is what drives me crazy too, is that we keep hearing that the Democrats have a messaging problem. I'm not sure it's the Democrats. I think it's the media has a messaging problem.
Right.
And Gavin Newsom's going to get into that, but I'm sorry, finish your thought.
I don't have a thought, but I agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree, because when you finally hear Democrats on, like the lawmakers and politicians, because sometimes you don't get them on, right? Like I think Eric Swalwell was on MSNBC.
Yes.
And he has great messaging, and
He
Nicole
does.
Wallace will ask him like, okay, what is your messaging for this? Like, and he has great. We need more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get back to this interview. I think it's like a 3-minute clip, so we might interrupt it a few times, but it's so far excellent.
Vice President Kamala Harris go way back.
Yep.
You say that you came
Yep.
up together in San Francisco, knew each
Before
other
we were in politics.
before you were in politics. I'm sure you saw that former Speaker Emerita Nancy
Do you know who Gavin Newsom's ex-girlfriend was?
Oh, Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle.
Yeah,
Kimberly Guilfoyle. I don't know why I stopped it for that, but
I
it's
don't even know
kind of shocking.
what he saw. Well, she looked normal back then.
Well,
She
and
didn't
also
look
she
bad.
might have been normal back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
So, the whole MAGA movement has a way of just sucking you in to be
It
a
really
fucking
does.
moron. But here we go.
Pelosi. She heaped praise on Kamala Harris, but she declined to say whether or not she thought that the vice president is the best person to be on the ticket with Joe Biden in 2024. Do you?
Of course she is.
No hesitation.
Biden-Harris administration, masterclass in terms of performance, bipartisan deals on infrastructure,
Masterclass used twice. I like it.
bipartisan deals on guns and debt ceiling, on the chips and science.
She's
Act.
the best choice.
I mean, by definition, if I think
The fact that she has to ask that twice, that's, again, the media kind of shit that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Why did she have to ask that the second
Right.
time when he was
And
quite clear?
why are we even asking it? Because she's a black woman? Like, when have we ever asked? Did we ask that about Joe Biden being Obama's?
Didn't ask it about
Right.
Mike Pence either. Not one time
Right.
did I ever hear anybody, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, find me a clip where people were questioning whether
Ever.
Mike Pence.
Ever.
Yep.
No vice president ever.
this administration the last 2.5 years has been one of the most outstanding administrations in the last few decades, and she's a member of that administration, she gets to lay and claim credit to a lot of that success. The answer is absolutely.
I love him.
Phenomenal.
All right, such
Okay, so that is how you do it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've had this discussion before. Maybe Democrats need to find a way to just say, we'll go on every fucking show. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
We'll go on every TV show. We'll go on every podcast. It doesn't matter. And we're going to straighten these fucking idiots out that go on their podcasts, that go on their shows and spew the complete opposite bullshit to appease a stupid audience.
Right. And that is what I long for. Democrats on Fox News, get over there. Like, I know sometimes I see one or two on certain shows, but get
Pete
over there.
Buttigieg.
Yeah, get the hell over there and say these things. Like, somebody's going to hear it. They may not believe it, but they will hear it.
There is a big argument. I've heard a lot of people on the left as to whether or not it's a good idea to go on these kind of shows. Is it good? Does it help? Does it not help? There's a school of thought that it doesn't help at all. And there's a school of thought that it certainly would help. I think you and I may be on the same page just based on what you just said. I don't see how it hurts,
Right.
because I would imagine some independents may be watching these.
Exactly. Or somebody that didn't know it and maybe by chance look it up. Even if you change one mind, right? It's almost like, you have the gun buyback programs. No, you're not going to get all the guns off the street. But if you got 2, that's a good day, right? Yeah. That's a good day.
I mean, I think it's important too, just maybe even for women who are on the fence, to know that there is no such thing as after-birth abortions. There's no such thing as 9th month abortions. And if it happened, there's maybe 4 cases. And it's only because it was about the life of the mother or the life of the child.
Right.
That's it. Not for demonic purposes, not because you're just an evil person. I mean, and we have people in this country believing that. We have people like Donald Trump on with Kristen Welker talking about late-term abortions and after-birth abortions. What the fuck are you talking about? And why are you getting away with saying this?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And they said it at the Republican convention. That was a big talking point, was that. And, you're right. We have to have Republicans that go on to those programs because, number one, that's how it fucking used to be.
Yeah.
Like, there was not a conversation like this. It was, you were just on TV. Lawmakers were on whatever channel there was. There wasn't going into each other's corner. That's just like, it drives me crazy. People running over to like Threads, or it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pay for X now.
Yeah.
I'm going to Spoutable or this or that. Right. I would rather go nowhere, because you're just going to be talking to yourself with
Yeah.
all like-minded people. That makes no sense. We are so fucking, Democrats are so tunnel vision. And this is what drives me crazy about liberals. We're not the only ones that are being impacted if Elon decides to make everyone pay, because
Yeah.
he's not going to say just Democrats pay and Republicans don't have to.
Right.
They're having the same conversations too. I don't want to pay that shit.
Yeah.
Yes, to go back, yes, Republicans should be on Fox News, Democrats, because guess what? Maybe Republicans don't know in their brains that Democrats own guns too.
Right. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, because I've heard you say this a couple times. How do you get through? I mean, do you actually get through? Can you actually get through? Because there's a couple of ways to speak to somebody on the opposite side. It's either A, you're an idiot. And yeah, on this podcast, and when I'll say shit like, you're a fucking moron, you're stupid, all that stuff. Part of it's for trying to be funny or entertaining, whatever the case is. But if I'm in a serious conversation with somebody on the completely opposite side, and I think as an individual, we could probably get through to somebody, but do you feel it's effective enough? And maybe I think it probably could be, to get through a group of people, to get through a large group of people who seem to have already made up their mind, and that their mind is not changing.
So there's a lot of things at play. So say, like, let's just take Twitter, whatever, X, formerly known as Twitter.
No, just keep calling it Twitter, because fuck Elon Musk. And
good. Thank you, because I don't like the X, Twitter.
Yep.
You write a post, and all of a sudden you have MAGA wing that's like saying, something ridiculous. That's not true. If it's some, I ignore. Some I go back and forth with, and I'll tell what the truth is. Like, no, Democrats are not fucking having, trying to have abortions in the ninth month. They're
not pedophiles.
Yeah, that kind. Yeah, I may go back and forth a couple of times, but it's not necessarily to change that person's mind, not that crazy person. It's for the people who are reading the thread, are just bound, that just so happens to stumble upon the thread, who may get something from it. It could be independent. It could be someone who didn't know the story, especially women in this abortion issue, right? Because they'll be quick to be like, that didn't happen. Someone's baby was going to be born without a skull and they couldn't get an abortion. Boom, here's the article, right? It's here. Google it, right? They may still act like, go into their corner like, that's not true. They saw that fucking article. They know it's true, right? So they can't say, because at this point, you're just being willfully ignorant. You see it because you got proof. So that's what I do. It's just the exposure. I'm not really trying to change mine. Expose the lies, keep putting the truth, because when Hillary was running, I think that, there's so many Russian bots. We weren't aware. There were people that was infiltrating. We had Russian bots trying to, with the black Abbeys, we call them digital blackface, right? They were acting like they were black accounts, right? Set up their accounts like they were black, and then act like they were voting for Trump.
Correct.
Right? Then no, you're get off the plantation. Like that was the big thing, right? To try to move people over. And we didn't fight that enough.
Well, it was probably because a lot of it is that we didn't really, it wasn't part of what we expected, and so when that came out of nowhere, it was one of the, I don't want to say greatest, because I don't want to give it any praise, but it was one of the most tactical uses of basically warfare from another country upon our country without using any weapons whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it worked, hook, line, and sinker. And unfortunately, the fucking the fishing pole was still out there and people were still biting off
Yeah.
this fucking bait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it's clear. I mean, it
Yeah.
drives me insane. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what else drives me insane. If I hear Donald Trump or any one of these idiots one more time go, Russia, Russia, Russia. First of all, do you know what that is? That is from when the Brady Bunch, when they'd say Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
Marsha. I love using
And
that.
he
that
keeps
gift.
saying Russia, Russia, in this, and it's just like, this is a guy who is running for president. I'm supposed to take this guy seriously.
Yeah. Strong Putin. He's so strong and brilliant and smart.
Putin did it.
Putin did it.
Yeah. Okay.
Putin did it.
All right, Lana, we're going to move on. There has been a history of women, for them, most unfortunately, Pam Anderson, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian, who have had sex tapes out there. Can add one more to the list, Miss Lauren Boebert. You've obviously seen this story.
Oh, yes.
Lauren Boebert was attending a play, which is the liberal arts,
Right. Interesting.
in her home state of Colorado, in the city of Denver, of Beetlejuice, with her date, who apparently is a Democrat who owns a bar, who has had drag shows at his bar. Since the news has come out, they have broken up apparently, and
Has she? They also said that they've been dating for months. Did she not know that he
well,
was?
that's what I was like. I heard in an interview TMZ stopped her,
Okay.
and she says, "Well, next time I'm going to check to see, who they vote for." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. Was that the first night you were out with this guy? Because if you were,
Right.
I mean, I will say it's a lot of guys' dream date that she's maybe."
It's just all dumb. And who breaks up with somebody for like, oh, I found out he was a Republican? Unless you're just an asshole. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the news came out and she was embarrassed by
that's
it.
exactly what that was. Yeah.
But she's also embarrassed by this clip that I'm about to play.
Yeah,
I'm sure
let's
it's been
go.
seen a million times. Don't care. Because again, this is the other thing that I am done with. I'm done with these family value Christian fucking assholes.
I'm done with the fondling.
She
Fondling her seen around the world.
listen, and again, you're talking about, oh, the children, I'm assuming there were some children there. Who the hell knows if they
and
saw
a
her?
pregnant lady right behind them, wasn't she?
Pregnant lady right behind her. They're vaping. They're making noise. They're making scenes. Basically, like Lana, if your child was at this play and the same exact thing happened, they probably wouldn't be allowed out of the house for weeks, or they'd have something taken away, or they'd be punished.
Right.
She's a fucking child, this person, and she is not just a child. She is a member of Congress.
Yeah. Behaving like that. You're supposed to have some type of decorum about you. You're a member of fucking Congress. What is wrong with you?
And again, when we talk about the false equivalencies, they're talking about the way John Fetterman dresses versus the way she acts out, and they're saying it's basically the same thing. This
The way
is
he
not the
dresses?
same thing.
Who cares about the way she dresses? Like, what? No one is saying anything about how she dresses. Like,
Well, no, it's Fetterman that they're comparing. They're saying, because I don't know if you saw the story, that they made Schumer. Chuck Schumer made a rule on the Senate floor to where there is no dress code. So a lot of people were losing their mind because they think John Fetterman should not be wearing hoodies and shorts and sneakers in Senate. And so they're sort of conflating the two, going, well, you're saying there should be decorum here, but not here. To me, it's a completely different story. And again, by the way, 10 years ago, if you asked me, I'd say, I don't know, if you're in the Senate, maybe you should dress at least.
I think there should be a dress code.
There should be a dress code.
We're just fucking dumbing it down. Like, stop playing, Schumer. I mean, of all the things, yeah, we're becoming progressive and liberal, but that's just stupid.
I'm not, and again, I think, in fairness, kind of how the guy got elected, because he was just the regular guy who wore the hoodies and
You don't have to put on the tux. Fucking put on a pair of pants and a shirt. Like,
yeah, and I kind of agree with that too. But again, at the same time, trying to say that what he does and how he dresses and what Lauren Boebert does is the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm not buying that, because this is behavior that most people would lose their jobs if they were caught doing this in public. But we're playing the video because I can't stand this woman, and I can't stand her mouth about God and family values and all this
shit. For forgiveness. She went on Twitter and asked God for forgiveness. So it's all forgiven. She's good.
Oh,
it's going to
is
happen.
That how that works?
Yeah, it's going to happen.
I'm not a religious guy, so I don't know how that works. If that's as easy as it is, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll find out. But here we go. This is her date.
She's a grandma.
I mean, look at these two, like they're 15-year-olds.
That's so ridiculous.
I mean, it's just so.
And it's fucking Beetlejuice, like
right, right.
It's even like a sexy movie. It's
correct.
Play
right, exactly. What was the point? I don't understand. What was the scene going on in Beetlejuice that got them all worked up?
No, I don't know.
Well,
go home.
Right, exactly. Get the hell out of there. They're probably that guy was 100% happy they got kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was ready to go. But what I love is that she denied vaping in the auditorium, and little did she know at the time that they had full video of her vaping in the auditorium and smoke coming out of her mouth and everything she says. She's been busted a few times about lying about something. There was something where she was running up the stairs, I think, to vote for I want to say it was when they were voting on raising the debt ceiling, and she was late and she didn't get the vote in on time. And she made up some lie about, and then they posted the video of her running up the stairs, showing that she was clearly late. And, she's another clown. She barely won her House race.
Yeah.
This is not doing her any favors.
What's the guy? The Adam Fish?
Yes.
Something. Yeah. Yep. He has a great chance.
Yeah. Yep. I hope so too. Okay. So we talked earlier about this article that I saw, and shit, I got on here a little late. I want to give this guy credit. So will you give me a second, Lana, while I look this guy's name up? All right.
Yeah.
Do you know any songs or anything? Do you want to sing anything while I'm looking this up?
Me to sing? No, thank you. I'd rather watch her grope than me grope and be groped.
All right. Well, what is your favorite song between 1960 and 1993?
I'm playing. What are you talking about? I don't know.
Because that's the only time music was good. Between 1960 and 1993. If you give me a song, maybe I'll sing it while I'm looking this up.
A lot of genres. What do you mean? I love some Sade. She's my favorite.
Sade was pretty damn good. She was very smooth.
Just timeless. Oh, Anita Baker. Freddie Jackson, but I do.
Like "You Are My Lady" is a great
I do
song.
like the Hall and Oates.
Oh,
I love them.
No question. If you don't want to think anymore, I've got the name of the.
Okay, go ahead.
But you can. I mean, if you want to throw some more out at me, you can.
No, that's fine. Unless you're going to sing them.
You Are My Lady. I love that song, and I'm not a great singer either, but I'm one of those idiots that know every lyric to every song. Again, it's got to be between 60 and like 1993.
Yeah.
But I know every lyric to every song. This gentleman's name is Michael Tomasky.
Okay.
He writes for the Soapbox, which I've never heard of, but I will say I did see this article, and it is called We Have Two Medias in This Country, and They're Going to Elect Donald Trump. So, of course, I saw the title of that, scared the shit out of me, just like all media is supposed to do.
Yeah.
But
Like, what?
it's a very long article, and forgive me because I'm going to read a lot of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
But there's a lot of really good things in here. So he wants to begin by discussing the two medias. The first, of course, is that we call the mainstream media the New York Times, the Washington Post, the major non-Fox news networks, a handful of other newspapers and magazines. This has also been known as the agenda-setting media because historically, that's what they did. Whatever was the lead story in the New York Times that day filtered down through the wire services and other delivery systems to every newspaper and television and radio station in the United States. By the way, if you have any questions or if you need anything, just stop me.
All right.
Then there's an avowedly right-wing propaganda network, which we have talked about this many times on the show. This got cranked up in the 1970s when conservatives, irate over what they, and he even says not incorrectly, saw as a strong liberal basis or bias in the mainstream media, decided to build their own. Rupert Murdoch bought the New York Post. In the 1980s, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon started the Washington Times, and in the 1990s, right-wing talk radio exploded. The Rush Limbaughs and some other people that I'm not as familiar with.
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly, yes. Enabled in by a 2-1 decision by a judicial panel of the D.C. Court of Appeals, making the Fairness Doctrine discretionary. Now, the Fairness Doctrine, are you familiar with that? So the Fairness Doctrine is another Supreme Court ruling that I almost put in the same sort of category as Citizens United as maybe one of the worst decisions by the Supreme Court. And what the Fairness Doctrine used to do is during the newscast, basically in a nutshell, what it would do is it would allow for both viewpoints on a particular subject. So if there was a right-wing side, you would have to give the left-wing side and vice versa. That was done away with, which now allows for anybody to say whatever the fuck they want whenever they want to say it.
Right.
So then the Fox News Channel was launched. Today, when they're talking about the difference between mainstream media and the right-wing propaganda media, he says they're about the same size. And in fact, the right-wing media might finally be bigger, which I actually believe it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mainstream media audiences and newsrooms have shrunk. Consider in 1990, newspapers reached 63 million readers. In 2020, that number was 24 million. So it dropped by almost 40 million people. In 2006, newspapers employed about 75,000 people. In 2020, all the way down to 31,000. The right-wing media, meanwhile, has grown and grown. Fox, One America, Newsmax, Talk Radio, Sinclair, and all its local TV, radio news operations, and much more. Are you familiar with Sinclair Networks?
No.
Okay. So Sinclair Networks owns a majority of local newscasts. And they're very far right wing. They're owned by very far right wing people. There was a video that came out. I'm going to play this video here in a second, but there was a video that came out that is very concerning, and you're going to see how this propaganda machine works. Now, keep in mind, Sinclair is in markets all over the country. And in fact, it dominates the local news. But watch this video on basically how they run their channels and their local news.
Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 So I got one thing to say about that.
Putin
This
did it.
is extremely dangerous to our democracy. No?
Putin did it.
Did you see? You've never seen that before?
That gave me a headache. Why did you show me that? That was the worst thing. I felt like I was watching like Get Out or something.
Right.
Like, what the heck?
Well, it's super creepy. And it is, first of all, I don't even know if these newscasters truly even believe any of this. It's just kind of like, fuck, I got a job. I mean, I got to do what they tell me to
read
do.
The prompter. Just got to read the prompter. This is
Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad I didn't see any local from my station.
Well, surely there's a Sinclair somewhere in your market because, again, they are all over the place. And it is, again, extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is what media has become in this country, is that when you're talking about a biasy, and they keep talking about the mainstream media has this biasy, the biasy more for the mainstream media is views, clicks, all that stuff. The biasy from the right-wing propaganda media is the left sucks, they're evil, they're coming to take your children, they're coming to destroy America. Right. And if you even think about being friends with a liberal, you are a fucking moron and you're going to destroy this country.
Right.
Did I sum that up okay?
Perfect. Wow. I mean, that's why has become up to us podcasters, other social media influencers on YouTube, our fellow podcasters to do what we do, because the good thing is Gen Z, millennials, they ain't watching local news like that. I barely watch local news. I watch it for the weather and to see if my train is on time or running. Other than that, I don't really watch it that much, especially not for like national stuff. I don't watch it, and kids are getting their news from, we always say it's unfortunate, but maybe it's not unfortunate that they're getting it from the internet. They just have to learn how to discern what's true and what's not true, like use their Google as they're doing that. But these TikTok videos, we see it on Twitter, like, people will post TikTok videos, and sometimes young people, like Gen Z for Biden, like young people talking about DeSantis and talking about like what these politicians are doing. So that gives me hope.
You are absolutely right. I mean, the internet is either the scariest place in the world or the best place in the world. And it really depends on how interested you are in really understanding the truth about everything. And again, what's funny is that I can read comments about us on this show and they will tell us we understand nothing, that we are so far out of touch with everything. So that's where I was saying earlier, the concern about how do you reach out? And on the opposite end, the people who think they're right on the right, and if any of them even say, well, how do we reach out to the people on the left and get them to understand what we're talking about? And I hate saying this, and it sounds mean and it sounds terrible, but I mean, there is some truth to it, is that it's easier to sucker the people on the right because, I mean, just traditionally, they're more uneducated.
Right.
And people on the left are more educated. And there is something to say about that. That's not a snooty thing that, it's not elitist. It's just that some people got a better education. And I don't even fault the people on the right who are uneducated, and I will be honest, I've talked to people on the right who don't have the greatest education, but they would be willing to listen again on a one-on-one setting. But I mean, overall, I mean, let's face it, it's kind of easier to sucker those people.
Yeah. And they don't have critical thinking. A lot of that is just them. It's like they tend to believe what anyone tells them if it's packaged in something that they already believe is like better or has more authority. Like Trump is someone who they just think has just the authority. He's a white man, business, so he's just smarter. The Democrats tend to have diversity, right? Like we would follow a black man, Obama, which is problematic for all of the Democrats.
I was just about to say, but it's also problematic for the people who don't want to side with the left, because if you're inclusive too much, that's kind of an infringement upon them in some weird way.
Right. And that is exactly why they hate progressives. Like they just don't, like you just said, it's like, for instance, this woman at work, she'll never watch this show. Well,
all right, let's get her full name, please.
She's just a nice lady, nice white lady, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
She will start her sentence. Whenever she starts the sentence, she sits outside of my office. She'll go, I love everybody. And the minute she says, I love everybody, it's going to be followed by some bigotry.
Does she have a black friend? Is that, that
That's
kind of
the
thing?
problem. She doesn't, and she needs one.
Yeah.
Right? Like she'll be like, look, my husband took this picture. It's in a Boston accent. My husband, Bobby, took this picture. And it's a homeless family. Like, it's just, and like, she's like, I think they're from Haiti. I go, okay.
What does that mean?
Right. She goes, they're homeless. The government is busing them here. I go, I said, Kathy, what government? She's like, the government. I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? It's like, this is a scenario. I bet her husband watches Fox News. She's watching General Hospital because she still watches the soaps. She's hearing.
Is General Hospital still on?
She's watching it. She said it. She's still watching it. So she's getting bits and pieces of it. So she knows some busing has gone around, right? Like she kind of gets that. So
does she know where it comes from, by the way?
I know. And I didn't want to get that deep with her because she's not going to understand because she doesn't follow politics. But she was like, they're busting her. So I go, but Massachusetts is liberal. Do you think Massachusetts is just taking some people and busting them and dropping them off in your town and then just leaving them? That doesn't make it. But that's what she thought. And then she's like, her girlfriend can't get an implant in her for her tooth. She can't afford it because of the dental. Guess why? Because they're giving all the benefits to the people coming across the border. Because those are the people that are living great, right? Because those people are living in like a mansions and like big ass houses. Like that's not true. Our healthcare sucks because our healthcare sucks, not because somebody else is taking it. And if our healthcare sucks that we're paying into, imagine what the fuck these people are getting. Free healthcare is horrific. Stop it.
100% Correct. And I'll tell you, I've heard the same shit in my life. I was in the car business before, and I would hear people all the time saying, they'd ask me, they'd like, how do these people on welfare, why are they driving around in brand new Escalades? I was like, that doesn't happen. And they're like, well, I've seen it. I said, you absolutely have not seen it, because I can absolutely promise you a brand new Escalade's about $80,000.
Right.
And the people in control on giving those loans are banks. And banks aren't fucking stupid.
Right.
You think they're going to give somebody that has no income or is just living on,
Right.
is going to drive around in a brand new, where are you getting your information from? They'll claim that they've seen it.
Right.
They might have seen somebody in a,
1990s.
1990s.
Because someone's a person of color, so they couldn't possibly.
Well, that's a lot of what it has to do with. There's no question. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to come up there one time for a Celtics game, and me, you, and Kathy will go up there and straighten her out. So,
Wait, not to mention, welfare does not allow you to have a car over a certain amount of value. So,
it's so ridiculous.
They don't allow it.
I used to hear it all the time. By the way, please like and subscribe to our show if you don't mind. Okay.
All right now.
So, do you want to hear more about this article? Or are you interested?
I do. I'm sorry. Go
If
ahead.
you're not, just say,
keep
you
going.
know what? It's boring. It's boring. If it's boring you, I want to know.
No, let's go. Let's go.
All right, so we were talking about the Sinclair thing.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the right-wing media has more power to set the news agenda right now in the mainstream media. The success of the right-wing media is by and large due to the way they speak in lockstep. And we talked about this earlier, with one voice and the way they push one very partisan agenda. They promote Republicans and conservatives, and they say nothing good ever about Democrats or liberals, exception of people like Joe Manchin. You'll also hear who the Tulsi Gabbards and the Robert Kennedy Jr.'s, who claims that he's a Democrat. Their gilding ethos is not journalistic but political, to advance one party and creed and work their readers and viewers into a constant state of agitation about the other party and creed. And in a time when the Republican Party project has little to do with policy and everything to do with fomenting culture war, no matter how trivial, the right-wing Wolitzer is an adept at ginning up a good 2-minute hate against something that got tweeted or what Mr. Potato Head is wearing that week. And here, the mainstream media, chasing engagement like a child fields for candy, follows the right down into these rabbit holes. And they do that to perfection, because we've talked about this before. The Republicans have little to zero policy. So what is their policy? Their policy is your kids are going to be affected, that there's a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, and you can interchange the sexes between the two, and that's going to obviously turn your kid into either a homosexual or a transgender person, which is so ridiculous. I don't understand. I mean, my sister had an Easy Bake Oven when she was a little girl, and I'm 1 year younger than him. I threw a fucking brownie in the Easy Bake Oven. Grew up as straight as you can be. I mean,
You're gay. You made a brownie. You cooked. You baked.
Right. I baked a brownie. Those awful, terrible, whatever the fuck that was that I threw in the Easy Bake Oven. And by the way, I'm not sure how healthy. Do you remember the Easy Bake Oven?
Yeah, I can't.
It's basically you turned on a bulb or something, and it basically
got hot though, right? Like that
Yeah.
cooked that little brownie to death. I swear that was the same brownie in those TV dinners.
Yes. Yes. That was the best part. I always save mine for last. I'm like, I'm eating my shit so I can eat that brownie and feel good
The
about
mashed potato and the brownie.
it. 1,000%.
I
The
don't know
brownie
what
was
the
good.
meat was, but the brownie and the mashed potato.
Oh, we probably ate some poison when we were kids.
Hell yeah, that's damn. Well, I mean, I know it's a delicacy in Hawaii, but
Yeah.
ugh,
All right.
sardines. Ugh.
I made a commitment to go through this article.
I'm
so
sorry, keep going.
No, it's not yours. Because we're going to interrupt ourselves a million times. So the mainstream media, in contrast, do not speak with one very partisan voice. They speak in many voices. Their guiding ethos is, guiding ethos is not political but journalistic. Sure, they're liberal in two senses. First, their editorial pages typically endorse Democrats. And second, they are culturally liberal because they are mostly based in big cities, and their staffs include a lot of LGBTQ people, for example, and precious few are evangelical Christians. But even with all that, the mainstream media do not serve a transparent political agenda in the way the right-wing media does. When the New York Times or CNN or MSNBC gets a scoop about a serious corruption in the Biden administration, they pursue the lead, and if verified, they report it. If Fox got such a scoop about Donald Trump, well, it's conceivable that there's something left there who wants to do real journalism and who might pursue it. I wish that person luck, though, in getting it on the air. And even if Fox were forced to report it, they'd quickly find ways to rebut it. So, or rebut it. We talked about this, and this is the difference between the two medias. And people ask, well, how is it possible that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are tied? I think I've said this before. If I didn't say it on this podcast, I said it on my last podcast. You ever seen the movie Liar, Liar with Jim Carrey? And if you were forced to tell the truth for a day, a week, a month, the Republicans would never win an election because it's all based on bullshit. It's all based on lies. It's all based on something that just isn't true. So the reason, based on this guy, what he's saying in this article is how closely, and even to an extent where the conservative media is even bigger now than the mainstream media, that's exactly why we're tied.
Right.
Exactly.
They're the louder voice. And again, these fucking polls. Who are they polling? Like what? Who is being polled? Independents and Republicans.
And well, we talked about this. The one CNN poll that came out where they were basically tied, where a majority of them were right-leaning independents or conservative voters.
And not one of the media stations reported on that poll that Trump, they didn't report on it, but they reported about the poll, but they didn't report about that side note information.
Yeah.
But everyone's like, oh, I'm so depressed about the polls. And it's like, why do we go back to the polls? Because we don't have anything to talk about this week, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff to talk about, but nothing salacious.
Yeah. I mean, there's always something, to talk about. And you're right. I mean, it's just something always pops up, but we've got, and that's why I think this kind of stuff is really important. When I read this, it did strike a chord with me because, I have this conversation and it drives me really, really, I say this a lot, it drives me crazy. I think I've said that on the show a million times, but it does drive me crazy that, we are ignoring basically, because this article even says that the right will not credit, they're not going to credit Biden for anything. Even when you've seen clips or maybe even watched it live, maybe, I don't know, but when they have to report a new jobs report or the inflation's going down or anything like that, they report it and say, this is what's happening. But then they have somebody on there going, this is why this is bad. This is why the inflation going down is bad, or this is why the unemployment aren't the real numbers that you're seeing. They have to do something like that to combat the good news.
Right.
Okay. And in the mainstream media, yes, Biden does get credit for things, but the mainstream media do not speak with one voice as the right media wing do. So the loud and anti-Biden chorus that blames him for everything bad. There's no equally loud or pro-Biden answering chorus speaking as one and giving him credit for everything good. That's basically what Gavin Newsom was saying. That's what you and I were saying. And that's another thing. The crux of this article is basically saying the same media that wants to both sides everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if the guy that they really don't think should win wins, he's the one that wants to destroy you. He wants to destroy your job as a journalist.
Right. Right. He wants to arrest you, jail you.
Like I said, I don't want to read the whole. I mean, I would suggest anybody go and read the article because it's really long. And even the guy is not suggesting that all media should be liberal, not all media. And again, I agree with that in normal times. In normal times, I think there should be a viewpoint from both sides, and maybe somebody like you or I could hear a viewpoint from the other side where we go, okay, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But when we're talking about the way the media is today, and we have a propaganda machine versus a media that basically wants clicks and views, and how are they going to get it? What's the best way to get clicks and views right now? Donald Trump news.
Right. And too bad for DeSantis, because no one's talking about you.
I mean, again, you talk about he's trying to do everything he can. He's going to blast Donald Trump, then he's going to back off Donald Trump, then he's going to. What's the last I heard that he defended Donald Trump on was the Russia thing, that he said Donald Trump's really not for Russia. That doesn't make any sense. He had the best policy against Russia. And it's like, dude, does he give you Ted Cruz vibes that if he did lose, he'd be the first person answering phones for Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah, because he wants a job. Can we I know we got to go, but can we just talk about Tim Scott's fake girlfriend?
I wanted to bring that up too. I mean, first of all, you know what?
I had to write that down so I don't forget to talk about that again.
First of all, what do you have to say about it?
I think it's hilarious, and I knew it was going to happen. It absolutely was going to. I was waiting for him to have a girlfriend. I'm like, someone's going to manufacture a girlfriend. It's going to be fake, but he has to have one, because the minute they start saying he was gay, I'm like, oh, they're going to give him a girlfriend. It's so obvious.
It's this is my second Brady Bunch reference, but there was an episode where Jan pretended to have a boyfriend. His name was something Glass. I can't remember his first name, but she pretended to have and made the whole thing up. And it's kind of like, well, this isn't like the Obama birth certificate thing. But eventually Obama said, here, you fucking idiot. Here's the birth certificate. Right. I'm not playing these fucking games with you. Right. I mean, he can easily bring this mystery woman out at any time. She's still a mystery.
I mean, he will. They're going to find a woman to be his girlfriend. I mean, they do it.
Well, I thought the same thing. That's exactly what it is. I mean, it's
they're looking for her right now. They're auditioning.
It's given me the Michael Jackson and what's her name, the Presley.
Oh, Lisa Marie. Yeah.
Lisa Marie sort of vibes, or Brooke Shields and
Michael Jackson. Like, what is this?
Yeah. I mean, and again, if it wasn't for a guy that wasn't so hypocritical, that's why I said same thing with Lauren Boebert and all these fucking people who are family values and anti-gay and all this, and they're doing one potentially can be gay. One is acting like a 15-year-old performing sex acts in public.
She's a grandmother.
She's a 36-year-old grandmother. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who cheated on her husband multiple times. These are all the family value.
Trump is the standard bearer.
And that's again, what am I missing just as a regular human being, is that the people who vote for these people are the ones who preach the the family values, all this stuff. Family values used to be the two words that Republicans would use ad nauseum and talk about church and God and Jesus and all this stuff. You still have the same people doing it, but none of them are. Yeah.
They're not going to church. Marco Rubio is not going to church. You know who's going to church? Joe Biden.
Correct. Right.
Because we see him going to church on Sundays. Barack Obama went to church.
It's so crazy that the guy who probably is the most religious guy, the most religious president, he's, and you said Obama did go to church a lot. The Clintons, I don't know how, religious they were.
And they didn't talk about it a lot, right? They didn't even pretend to be. But Biden is steeped in his faith.
Yeah. And that's why I think they threw that family values out a lot, because they were sort of taking shots at Bill Clinton. But I can show you probably 100 people on the right who claim family values that do not practice what they preach.
If they practice what they preach, they would leave Hunter Biden alone.
Correct.
Because it would be family values.
Oh, and gun rights.
Right. You're messing with an addict. Like, who's not running for president, who never has, who doesn't have any office. He's not a public servant. Like, he's a private citizen. Like, when does this so, I'm glad all this is happening now, because by the time 2024 happens, Hunter it's just gonna be a memory. Stupid impeachment is gonna be, no one's gonna care. They're not gonna be able to keep this going up until 2024. What will keep going up until 2024 is women being traumatized because they can't get the medical care that they need. Is going to continue, because state by state by state, women are suing. Idaho now, women are suing the state because of their abortion bans.
You're absolutely right. And there's a lot of people, if you are under any delusion that women are going to forget about this, you are out of your fucking minds. You're just out of your minds. Women will not forget about this. They absolutely are hell-bent, it appears. And it's not just the abortion issue. There's so many issues that not just the women, but the young people are very hell-bent on making sure that they get everything passed through. Before we go, last thing, and I want to pull this up if I can. So I said before, I don't want to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy anymore because he's just a clown and I don't want to give him any attention. But the only reason why I want to give him attention is because we get so many views on Vivek Ramaswamy videos. So before anybody clicks off this video who's a Vivek Ramaswamy fan, first of all, your comments don't bother me at all. Your threats, your name calling, all that stuff. If you're a Vivek Ramaswamy fan and you want to have a real discussion about Vivek, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to answer every one of your comments, but I'm going to answer them as stupidly as you present them. So, because I know a lot of you will watch maybe a minute or two of the video and say that we're stupid liberals, that we're this. Here's one comment that we got. I'm just going to give you an example of a Vivek Ramaswamy comment that we get here. Wow, the only clone I see here is you and your black puppet. Now, are you supposed to be the black puppet, Lana? I'm guessing.
Am I a soft puppet, or what kind of puppet am I?
Well, I could tell you're no puppet, so that's why I'm a little confused. I don't understand. So I don't know if you're talking about Lana or not,
That's
but
hilarious.
I can assure you she's no puppet.
I'm a black puppet.
Yeah, what the F do you do? By the way, you can spell out fuck. It's okay. What the F do you do to help anyone but yourself? I wouldn't. By the way, keep in mind there's zero punctuation in this at all. So I'm going to read it the way it's. Do you do to help anyone but yourself? 2 words, yourself, not one. Should be 1 word, not 2. I wouldn't think you had a wife and kids. Who the F can stand to listen to you regenerate? I think he meant to say regurgitate things.
Oh,
other
you were regenerating.
Yeah.
But
other people, and he spelled it P-O-E. That's how worked up this guy
is. Is that a Russian bot?
I'm pretty sure he's got a lot of them. Other people say you have no thoughts of your Owen, and if I'd ever see you in public, I'd destroy you, you silly little, and then spelled out the word C-U-N-T. The C spell, it stood for can't understand normal thinking. And then there's an S at the end for some bizarre reason. Don't deserve to breathe the same air I breathe, let alone get on any platform. And then that was it. So those are the comments that we get from Vivek Ramaswamy fans. So if you're asking me why I don't take him seriously, it's because of fucking morons like you who do not have any real sort of argument for Vivek. It's just word salads.
Insult. This is the deplorables. Okay, after you leave here, go somewhere and I don't know. Like, do these people have concussions? I'm just so confused. How are you so upset with someone speaking their opinions? You hate that so much? Make your own show.
I don't mind a good troll. In fact, I read some comments that were pretty good trolls on me, and I was like, I even
on me too.
I even tell them. I said that one actually wasn't that bad. And I also, there are every once in a while you do get some comments that are that do ask serious questions, and I'm happy to engage on any of those. But the reason why I bring up Vivek Ramaswamy is he was interviewed recently, and it appears that when there was a poll taking of him, he was asked, and I wish I had the clip. I didn't bother with the clip, but he was asked a question about one of the words that came up about Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's actually dropping a little bit in the polls, and the word most used for him was annoying, and that's exactly what he is. He's an annoying little troll,
like a gnat.
He's like a gnat who pretends like he understands.
Yeah.
You know, he is. I've heard him being used, the used car salesman who is fast talking, sounds good when he speaks. Almost every one of the comments said that Mehdi Hassan really got owned by him, and he was defeated by Vivek Ramaswamy, and that they have no idea what you and I were looking at. But I think it was pretty clear in that interview that
very clear,
especially when you have to ask one person the same question 3 different times, and you still didn't get a real answer out of it. So I wanted to bring that up because, again, I wanted to make it clear, and I wanted to say it early to the Vivek Ramaswamy fans that if you want to engage in any kind of discussion about Vivek, I'm happy to have it. But if you want to throw insults and threats and all that stuff, you can go fuck yourself. That's all there is to it. And you don't bother me at all. At all. You don't.
Say something about Vivek fans. If Vivek woke up tomorrow and said that he said something good about Obama, there would no longer be Vivek fans. They would be the most racist people. Vivek would be called the most racist names. Stop playing, y'all. Y'all are not fans of Vivek. You are fans of the nonsense that he's spewing. You don't care what body that it comes out of, as long as it's spewing the nonsense that you hold precious. So you don't care about Vivek.
Well, he falls in that category of kind of like those crypto bros who believe that the government is going to destroy our monetary, that it's going to destroy the currency, and that Vivek is the future, and that he's going to because they bought like 5,000 shares in Dogecoin that at some point they're going to be multi-billionaires because of it. You know, I think those are the kind of people that follow him. They're on the fringe, you know, those people who listen to the Ben Shapiro kind of guys, and maybe that's not even the right guy, but you get what I'm saying. It's those fringe people who are not just angry, but they're kind of out there.
Yeah.
So another fuck off. You don't bother me. Right, Lana?
I agree.
Thank you. All right. So
says the puppet.
Again, you're no puppet. That's why I was a little confused on who exactly he was talking about. You know, I don't know.
I thought my strings were hiding. I didn't know if people could see them.
Well, there's a username on there. I wasn't clear if it was a male or female, but let's face it, it's definitely a dude. We talked about that, how angry these dudes are in this fucking country nowadays, and they're so weird. They won't drink a fucking Bud Light because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's bad.
We're going to come to the end of the show here.
Okay.
I didn't realize we were on for an hour and 40 minutes. Maybe
it's because you've been drinking.
Cocktail or two. Let me ask you a question. Was I okay?
Yeah. You wouldn't even know.
All right. Well, maybe this is a thing.
Hey, throw back some before the show.
You're not opposed to a cocktail or two, right?
No. Hey.
All right. Well, maybe we'll try it again next week. But
cocktail hour.
Okay. Lana.
Yes.
Thursday night. What are we doing?
Oh, the dentist. However, I know. It's just busy.
No, you say you know. I don't understand. You have a dentist appointment at night?
Yes, at 7:30. So the show's at 8. 7:30.
Really?
It's a cleaning.
Oh, at 7:30 at night?
Mondays and Thursdays are their late nights. I think they close at like 8 or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know if that's typical or not. Or dentists open late, or is it just big cities? Maybe.
I mean, it's not even in the city because I don't live in the city, but it's Mondays and Thursdays are the late nights. They just they cater to people who have to work. So yeah.
I'm going to look up dentists and see if they are open that late where we are.
And
I'm not suggesting by any means
you can't have a root canal at 7:30 at night, right? It's
I would imagine
it's a cleaning. That's
okay.
Why.
All right. Well,
me and my kid. But next Thursday,
we clearly have nice teeth.
Thank you, and
You're
they're
welcome.
huge.
Yeah. Well, that just makes the smile nice and bigger.
I do. Next Thursday, though, so the following Thursday, September 28th, I am going to be interviewing Tanya Fernandez Anderson. She is councilwoman, Boston councilwoman for District 7, which is Roxbury, South End, and Dorchester. So she just won her preliminary election. So she is going to come and chat. I've interviewed her before, so she reached out and she wants to come back on. So yay.
What we're saying is no show this Thursday, but we're going to have a live show next week with an interview and a guest. Next week, we will be back on Tuesday. I am leaving for Las Vegas, Nevada.
Ooh, right.
Next week.
Next week.
That's after. So we'll have our show Tuesday, and then I'm leaving after that.
Okay.
So we will, the following week, we will be back on a Wednesday night, of course, if that's okay with Lana.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think that's October 4th.
I know we're doing our calendars right now.
Yep. So check Lana out on her show next Thursday, not this Thursday, on the Quest Show on YouTube. Of course, this show is going to be downloaded, and you can hear the audio version of it on the Black and White Show with Brian Rundle and Lana Quest. And if you have any questions or you want to involve yourself in the show in any way, certainly you can comment on the channel, or
suggestions. You can put
suggestions. We love suggestions. Or you can email me personally at runshousepodcast@gmail.com. Like and subscribe.
Email him.
This video, that's my email. Don't bother Lana. Don't try to look her up online. Don't try to bother her. She's
email him.
Didn't have time for your nonsense.
No, email him.
Yep.
I'm just a puppet. Yes, I just come here and I get the.
Fuck that guy. It doesn't matter. Listen, Lana, always great to have you,
Yes.
always great to talk to you. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Have a good weekend. Oh, see you next Tuesday. Oh.
We already had that tonight. Yeah. What was it? We don't understand.
Oh, you did say that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See you
Have a good weekend.
next
Bye-bye.
Tuesday. Bye.